Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hello and welcome to Cheap Shot Entertainment. You are the Cheap Shot Nation and I am your host Luke as ever. And we're going to go through everything that happened at Unforgiven 2001. It came to you from the Mellon Vision Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the home of the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle, of course, and there was lots to get through in this pay-per-view. Took place on the 23rd of the 9th, 2001, and the show opens up with a very wonderful rendition of America the Beautiful. Obviously not 12 days before the World Trade Towers fell to the terrorist attacks in 2001 on September the 11th. Now, 20 years on, and it's changed the world, hasn't it? But we're going to be talking about wrestling, so join me for the main part of the video. So we start the show with a fatal four-way elimination match for the WWF Tag Team Championships. It is the Hardy Boys versus the Hurricane and Lance Storm versus Spike and the Big Show versus the Dudley Boys. So we get immediately a choke slam to Storm, and he and the Hurricane are out after a high-flying melee on the outside. So they get eliminated straight away with the Biggest Little Man pairing in Spike Dudley and Big Show. Twist of Fate then comes in from Matt Hardy on Spike and sends his team out after Show was taken out by a double team suplex, and the Big Show and Spike Dudley are out next. Twist reversed into a 3D, and Jeff Hardy breaking up the pin with a swanton bomb, almost as the Dudley Boys eliminate the Hardy Boys. Bubba Ray sneaks in and hits the Bubba Bomb, and the Dudley Boys win the match and retain the championships over the Hardy Boys, who are very, very over at this point. Obviously, this is in the height of the feud between the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, and what was Edge and Christian, although there is some dissension in the ranks there. 4 cheap shots out of 5 I'm going to give this one. It was a fantastic opener. You can't really go wrong with a tag team opener, and all 4 teams contributing to the overall story and the build-up of the match and the story being told. So we go on to now RVD talking to Stephanie McMahon about Jericho, and tells him to take the biggest dressing room to cater for his superstar status. We go down now to ringside and we talk to Jackie Angle. Of course, Kurt Angle's mum is in the audience, telling us about how great her son is. And of course, like I say, it's Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I will get my words out. And the home of the Angles, of course. Yeah. The next match is Raven versus Satin, with Perry Satin fighting for the memory of Moppy. Yes, the mop with the paper plate face on the front of it that's having a memorial match. Yeah. I'm just going to go to the finish of this one. Twisting Fisherman's Buster, and Satin picks up the win in this one, securing the memory of Moppy. Incidentally, actually, it was a decent match. I mean, you can't go wrong with Raven and Perry Satin. Just that the storyline here was that Perry Satin was in love with a mop. 2001 WWE, everybody. I'm going to give this one 2.5 cheap shots out of 5, and it was a better match than it had any right to be. And it's stupid, but I did quite like the Moppy storyline. I thought it was so daft that it was entertaining, and that's just me. So I alluded to earlier the breakup between Edge and Christian. Incidentally, the next match is the Intercontinental Championship match between Edge and Christian. Christian with his new music, Christian, now you're on your own. I really like that music, by the way. I think it's absolutely awesome. And Edge, and he gets a pop as well. Edge moving to the Rob Zombie music, which he had for the whole of the brand split, and always on SmackDown. His music, whenever it hit, it was great. It was really, really good. And this is the evolution of a great tag team. You can hear a ice cream van outside as I'm recording this. So we get straight away a concerto which is stopped by the referee, and a low blow from Christian allows Christian to pick up the title at the end of this match, as they battled inside and outside of the ring and really blew off the feud. These two obviously have great chemistry. They are best friends in real life, of course, and a great moment in January at the Royal Rumble, knowing that Christian was going to pastures new and getting his career back on, and he's actually done a lot better than Edge, really, in 2021 as far as it goes, picking up titles and having great matches. I'm going to give this match 3 cheap shots out of 5. Like I say, these two had great chemistry, and it's a shame it ended, really. And how, did it further any storylines? Yes, it did. Obviously, Christian went over to the Alliance, which set this match up, and it did further more storylines. Christian was in like that sort of middle ground. He was like, yeah, go Edge, and then he was doing heelish type stuff, and he worked it really, really well, to be fair. Really did. Decent match. We move on to the WCW Tag Team Championships. Next, it is the Brothers of Destruction versus Chronic. That is Brian Adams and Brian Clark, the two Brians, of course. Brian Adams no longer with us, but I don't know what's happened to Brian Clark. Chronic were just two jacked up dudes beating people up in WCW, and something that probably should have worked in WWE but didn't quite happen. For whatever reason, I've no idea why it didn't happen, but we get a choke slam to Brian Clark after the match breaks down for this one, and the Brothers of Destruction pick up the win and retain the Tag Team Championships of the WCW brand. Moving on to the next match that they will be having. 2 cheap shots out of 5, which really irks me because it's got The Undertaker and Kane in it, as well as Chronic, who were absolutely awesome in WCW. Standard big man affair, but fairly enjoyable. We move on now to Chris Jericho ripping into Stephanie McMahon's enhancements, and wishing her the best of luck, and saying that he'll get her some balloons when he wins. Asked how old not many men you wouldn't have slept with in the past week, basically. It's good stuff from Jericho, and it's stuff that he's rekindling now in AEW, which is always a good thing. So we move on to what I would say is the best match of the card now, which is the Hardcore Championship between Rob Van Dam and Jeff Hardy, when he was given the chance to actually do really good stuff. Ladders come into play obviously really, really early in this one. They've had matches at Invasion as well, where Jeff Hardy nearly fell between the V in the stage. Ladders come into play. RVD misses a corkscrew leg drop. This match goes back and forth with the focus on RVD's shoulder, obviously with the 5-star frog splash and all the rolling about he does. That is a good point to target, really, because if he hits the frog splash, he's got to come down quite hard and it will hurt his shoulder. And Y2J is busted open early on in this one, so RVD versus Y2J is definitely one of the better matches on the card. Stephanie comes down to the ring. Obviously her feud with Chris Jericho is really reaching fever pitch now, and distracts Jericho. Swing and a miss with the chair, and RVD connects with the Van Daminator, the 5-star frog splash, and RVD picks up the win and retains the Hardcore Championship. RVD in 2001 was just plain awesome. 4 cheap shots out of 5 for this one. Great physical match between two of the greatest, or two of the best in the world, and yeah, they were really good at this point, and Jericho still is. RVD is sort of let himself go, as you probably would imagine. Well, he could still go if he does it. I've seen that, some videos circulating where he is still doing his stuff, isn't he? I suppose he's got to pay for the green somehow. Anyway, moving on to the WCW Heavyweight Championship match. This is a 2-on-1 handicap match. It is Booker T and Shane versus The Rock, and plenty of shenanigans here in this match going on during the course of the match. Of course, most of the match is between Booker T and The Rock. The Rock picking up the championship at SummerSlam, of course, over Booker T. Shane hits Booker with the title instead of The Rock, and then The Rock in front of the ref, and no DQ in this one, because question mark. I don't know if I can't remember whether it was Nick Patrick refereeing this one, quite possibly being the WCW brand. Rock bottom hit to Shane and spine buster to Booker T. Test smashes The Rock, and Bradshaw chases Test away. Nick Patrick helps The Rock into the ring. Chioda stops the count. Of course, there were feuds between the referees at this point as well. Hebner in after Chioda is taken out, and The Rock hits the rock bottom to retain the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. 3.5 cheap shots out of 5 for this one. Really enjoyed this one, including the shenanigans and the feud between the referees. Now, it's time for a game of which WWE superstar is at WWF New York, because they didn't have a spot on the card. Boom. Today it is Stacy. So I wouldn't exactly call her a jobber necessarily, but it's a fun game, isn't it? Which jobber is in WWF New York? It is Stacy this time. Obviously she's giving the fans what they want, and that is the legs, because they go all the way up, and we move on to the next match, and it is the United States Championship match between Rhino and Tajiri, and of course Tajiri is with Tori at this point in time. Lucky bugger. Tajiri does everything he can to defend this championship. I think he even tells Tori to go back to the dressing room, doesn't want her involved in this one. Obviously Rhino, being the absolute monster that he is, goring everybody and everything in his path. And no different for the win here. Tajiri falls victim of the gore, and we have a new United States champion in Rhino, and 2 out of 5 cheap shots on this one. I feel like this one should and could have been better. But we're moving on to the main event now, which is the WWE Championship match between Kurt Angle and the current champion, Stone Cold Steve Austin. This one is an absolute battle. Of course, Kurt Angle in his hometown built really, really high. Battle to the outside as Austin tries to leave. He's like, yeah, I'm not having this typical heel behaviour, I'm going home. And of course, everyone gives Kurt Angle a pop when he runs up the ramp and hits Stone Cold round the back of the head. And Angle throws Austin off the stage at this point as well, because they had the stage, it wasn't all flat. And after a beatdown, Angle carries the champ back to the ring to get the win. Angle rips up the ringside mats to just really rub it into Austin, and Austin cuts him off. Austin goes for a pile driver on the outside, but that is reversed into a backdrop, and the concrete Austin returns the favour, of course. Cameraman takes a bump and gets fired by Vince McMahon unceremoniously, because that is what happens when the cameramen or camera women get in the way, unless it's part of a storyline. Stone Cold stays on top. USA chants for Kurt Angle. Triple German suplexes, low blow as Austin assaults the referee. Angle hits the stunner. Angle slam by Austin, stealing each other's moves, and the pile driver to Angle. Austin tries and tries for the stunner, which is countered every single time into the ankle lock, and Austin taps. Great match. 4.5 cheap shots out of 5. Damn near perfection here, and the finish was fantastic. With the celebration, we have a new WWF champion, and of course Kurt Angle has won it in his hometown. The title comes back to the WWE. That is the story of Unforgiven in 2001. So we move on next to No Mercy 2001, and that is going to be in October. This is your retro review for the month of September in 2021. Been exactly 20 years since this pay-per-view. I hope you've enjoyed the review of this one. It's taken a while for me to film it, but I really enjoyed this pay-per-view. Definitely one of the 2001 pay-per-views that you should definitely go and watch. So that leaves me to say, you are the Cheap Shot Nation. I've been your host, Luke. I will see you next time for more wrestling goodness as the world opens up once more. Check out the channel and the rest of the reviews, as well as the dedicated gaming channel and the dedicated movie channel, where we have updates every single week. I'm not going to say without fail, because sometimes I do forget to put the videos on, but they are recorded. Anyway, I will see you next time, Cheap Shot Nation. Take care, and goodbye.
Hiya.